Here's a question that should probably bother you more than it does. If I were to ask a person in your audience what you do, and the people that you sell to, the people that you ask for donations from, what you do in a sentence, could they tell me? Not your tagline, not your mission, but actually what you do. Well, a lot of times that's not the way it happens. Most teams can't, even those who are on this side before you're putting your marketing out into the world. It's not because their work isn't good. It's because no one has given their story shape. And so today we're going to be talking about a story as a creative tool. It's not just a tool that we're going to use at the end when it's time to make the marketing. Let's do it. Here's the story part. No. Story is the strategy. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And if you don't have one, everything else we've talked about in the past several episodes, the North Star, the signal, the clarity, this is going to be the piece that brings it all together. And I'm going to give you some tools for you to be able to flush out your story strategy really fast. So stick around. Hey, and welcome to the Portnoy Media Lab. My name is Dan. I have spent the last 2 decades helping creative production, marketing campaigns with both the for-profit and the nonprofit side of things. And I think that's the best, honestly, because I think sometimes if you stay too much in the nonprofit space, a problem that can happen from the consulting side is that people get a little blasé, and it's like they forget that there's a need, and the need isn't just like you put stuff out into the world and then, the nicest people will say okay and support it. I think that's not really a great idea. And I think also on the for-profit side that it's a lot of people just put stuff out there and they forget that there's the story that's needed and the meaning that sometimes goes away when we make products that better people's lives. And so I love to kind of straddle that fence because I think it's the best way to do it. Let's get into what story actually is. Now, most people, when they think about story or they hear the word story, they're going to think long. The other thing is they're going to think about personal. So, maybe this involves some sort of struggle, maybe some sort of redemption arc, maybe a video with soft music and some, black and white photos, a little guilt. Could be. I've seen it many, many times, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about story at its most basic level is a structure. It's a structure in 3 parts, usually. Now, when we talk about movies, we can talk about 4 parts. We can talk about 5 parts. Sometimes, we'll talk about 8 parts. I mean, it depends. In a mini series or something like that, you can do a lot of different arcs. You can do a lot of different pieces. But at its most basic levels, it's 3 things. So let's get into what that is. So you've got a want, you've got an obstacle, and you've got change. Some would just call that beginning, middle, and end. I like what McKee says, Robert McKee, in his story class. He talks about that you're going to take your friends and you're going to put them in a tree. Then you're going to throw rocks at them, and then you're going to get them out of the tree. So that's that same thing. You take your friends, an interesting group of characters, you're going to put them in a tree, you're going to make some sort of circumstance change, and then you're going to have an obstacle, you're going to throw rocks at them, and then we're going to have a change, we're going to get them out of the tree. And that is basically it. So it should, beginning, middle, and end, it is that simple. If you've ever seen marketing that doesn't land, it's skipping one of these pieces. There's some sort of problem. There's some sort of want that is either not being addressed, or there's some sort of, maybe there's no obstacle. Why am I buying this car? Because I like new cars? I guess. It is an obstacle, but it's kind of a weak one. Maybe we could do a little better. And maybe there's no change. Like, well, if your life's not better, why are you spending the money on it? Right. It's kind of a tough sell. It's a tough sell. So that's exactly where we start. So want, obstacle, change. Okay, here's something worth sitting with. People don't remember statistics, and I will probably challenge you that you probably don't either. But we do remember how things make us feel, right? If we're going to be talking about a product or we're going to interact with something, there's like a feeling, right? And most ads usually talk about some sort of feeling. Think about, they say, picture yourself, in something, or you're going to, this is going to make your life better. And when your life is better, you are the champion of your life. You are the king. You are the queen. It's something like that that's going to make us feel that way. You probably can't tell me a lot of dates from your, middle school history class, or maybe even your high school one. And that's just because that's usually the way it works, unless there's a great story with it. We often remember things like the Civil War or whatever, because there are a lot of emotions and we hear a lot of stories and there are emotions tied with it. And that's what makes it sink in. So this isn't how science, I mean, this is literally how science works. Our process, our narrative process, is how our brains activate differently when we're talking about information. Memory, emotion, meaning, these pathways light up in a way that bullet points won't trigger. I mean, think about your last terrible PowerPoint situation. Is it just a whole bunch of bullet points and you're trying to get through, like, I hope this is going to work because I'm thinking about the next meeting, or I'm thinking about the next whatever. No one ever says, man, could you give me some more bullet points on this PowerPoint? Instead, I like those talks, and you probably do too, where they maybe flash up a picture and they tell you a story. And then we start learning about something that they're shedding some light on. And then we're starting to associate meaning and memory all together with emotion. That's just a really normal kind of way to see things. So when our marketing leads with features like we offer X, Y, and Z, and you're speaking to a rational mind and asking it to do all the work, the rational mind is kind of lazy. It will not work unless there's something that's already made it care. And that's just science. So story makes people care first. And then the features help it make sense. So if your audience is leaving your content without feeling anything, so you posting social media and you're not getting any likes, or you're not getting any shares or saves, or there's just no interaction. Like, people are looking at it, it's getting some views, but then the algorithm just starts working against it because it's not very interesting. It's probably it that you're not helping people feel something. So this is usually why. So it's not the quality of what you're offering. The order in which you're presenting it is usually a big thing as well. Okay, in episode 3, we talked about the North Star, not as a slogan, but as a decision filter. Remember the things that we're going to do, but also the things we're not going to do. A way to look at everything on your plate and say, does this deserve my energy? So story works the same way, but a level down. So once you know what you stand for, your story is going to how you decide how to say it. Story is going to help you with that. It's the shape that you put your message in so it actually travels, right? From you to the person who needs it without getting lost. Okay, it's that simple. And here's where these two things connect: alignment and amplification, right? We align because we start finding out, does this deserve our energy? Yes, we're aligned. Okay, great. So if we aren't aligned and we're putting something out in the world, that's going to fail one way. If we amplify, but we haven't aligned first, well, that's going to fail in a different way, because then we're going to spend a bunch of money to do some big ads, but it's not going to connect with people. So we want to make sure that we're aligning with our North Star kind of idea. And this is what's so important for us to do. And you amplify externally through the story, right? So externally, we're going to connect with people through this story piece. And this is why we're doing it. One without the other can leave a team that thinks clearly but communicates poorly, or a brand that sounds great, but it has nothing real underneath. And that second part, I feel like I see that so much more than anything else, that it's really nice and shiny. They have a really nice looking car, but the engine is bullcrap. And so that's a really tough way. So we want to make sure that we don't fail in either direction on that. Okay, like I told you before, here's the 3-question test that you're going to be able to diffuse all of your ideas and put it through. So you can run any pitch, any piece of content. You can pitch this through any post, any campaign, any email, anything through these 3 questions, and you can start figuring something out if you're stuck. Okay, so here's the first question. What does my audience want? Not what you want to tell them, but what do they want at their core? What outcome are they hoping for? Not what problem are they trying to solve? What does a better version of their situation look like? So that's a really crucial thing. If you can't figure out what the audience wants, well, maybe marketing isn't where you're supposed to be. But no. I think you can figure this out really fast. Like, okay, so what do they want? They want more time to themselves. That's a big one. Just about any audience wants that. They want to be more in control of their destiny, right? They want to have the tools that say, I can get more done, or I can go further and faster in the way that I'd like to go. And that's a crucial one. So, okay, we hold on to a couple of those. What's our next question? What's in the way? Now, what's the real obstacle? Not the surface problem, but the actual friction. the fear, confusion, competing priorities, a bad past experience with something like what you are offering. You've got to name it honestly. Okay. So those are the things that are in the way. What's in the way? Well, if we're saying that I want to be more in control of my destiny, what's in the way? Fear, right? Sometimes we get in our own way. Sometimes our ideas about things, maybe we don't even know. And this is where therapy comes in. But we don't have to embrace the fear. We just have to say, this is the real issue. Fear is here. So if we're going to encounter fear, if you're going to try and change a new market. I mean, I think about that magical time when the iPhone launched and it really shook up everything. We didn't even know what we wanted, right? We just knew that phones were kind of a thing and it wasn't that fun. And then it started getting more fun. That was a very big deal. So what was in the way? Well, we didn't even know our limitations, our imagination, maybe. That was a biggie. And so if you've got that figured out, this is, hold on to that. So what does my audience want? And what is it that's in the way? And then the last one is, what changes if they engage with you? Okay. So this is the benefit. What's in it for me, right? Not a feature list, a shift. What's the shift that takes place? Remember, we're doing want, obstacle, change, right? So here's the change. What's this change going to be? What does their world look like on the other side of working with you or buying your product or donating to you? And I will say this to every nonprofit in the world, that it is important to know that there is an exchange that's happening. They will make a donation to you. And what happens? What do you give them back? Good vibes, right? It starts with good vibes, but hopefully it's more than that, right? That it's now thank you, donor. You have empowered me that I can now get my program off the ground, or I can do the work that changes lives for people. There's the change right there. This is what I can do now because of you. This is a huge deal. And don't downplay it. That's a really big thing. So if you can answer all three of these questions, clearly you have the architectures for a story. It's that simple. Everything else, the copy, the visuals, the format, it's all decoration. It's an important decoration, but it's just decoration. Okay. And if you can't answer all three, the piece isn't done yet. Go back, give it a go. Okay, we've spent the first few episodes of this show, so this is episode number 4, diagnosing problems. We've talked about busy work, we've talked about noise, we've talked about misalignment, and I want you to notice something, that even there was a story. It's a thing that you want, clarity, impact, work that matters, right? Those are the things I know that you want. There's something in the way, the cult of busy work, the noise economy. I bumped into the noise economy so much this week of one person saying, this is how you're supposed to do stories. And another person says, this is how you're supposed to do. And both were successful. So it was really kind of hard to go, well, and what are you going to do? And then the absence of a real North Star. That was the third thing, right? That was the clarity to know, what are we supposed to do? What are we not supposed to do? And that something can change. That's what this is what we built the show on for the last several weeks. Not because I wanted to have some clever narrative, but because it's how the understanding actually moves between people, right? If I'm going to try and tell you what's happening, this is an easy way to start building into that. And so story isn't a presentation layer. It's again, it's not that thing that we're going to put on top. It's the thing that makes the message a message instead of just words. Right? So even if you've got the best copywriter in the world, if you're not thinking from a story perspective, that's going to be problematic. Now, I do have some story frameworks on this YouTube channel, some storytelling that you can watch videos right now if you want to check those out and, get started on your storytelling. Because as much as I know it was very fashionable, like when I wrote my book a little more than a decade ago, it was very subversive. People weren't really talking about story. I got a lot of hassle about it. But over time that we're starting to realize, oh yes, yeah, story is where it happens. And don't just pay homage to it. I think that's another thing that people do, and they say, oh yeah, of course story, but they do business as usual. So try this out. Want, obstacle, change. I'm excited for you to try it. I would love to know how it works out for you. If you want to comment, please, if you're having trouble, please leave some comments. Shoot me an email, dan@portnoymedia.com. I'll put it at the bottom here so you can know. But shoot me an email. I would love to help you. So do that. And that's it for this episode. Thanks so much for being here. This is the Portnoy Media Lab. My name's Dan, and I'm rooting for you. Have a great one. See you next time. Thanks for watching this video. If this has helped you, there's another video for you to check out right over here. And if you like this channel, if you like this kind of thing, please subscribe. I post new conversations and field notes every week on our podcast, the Portnoy Media Lab. Thanks so much. See ya.